Are you finished?
Well, thank you. How thoughtful. Would you like a chocolate?
Yeah, sure. Thanks. Oh, sorry, Sheldon. I almost sat in your spot.
Did you? I didn't notice. Have a chocolate.
Thank you.
You're here a lot now.
Oh, am I talking too much? I'm sorry. Zip.
Thank you. Chocolate?
Yes, please.
Hi, I'm Claudia. Behavioral theorists believe that learning occurs when you see changes in behavior. In the behavioral learning model, learning is a result of conditioning. As you saw in the video, the importance of rewarding the desired behavior as soon as it is shown is effective to the approaches in learning. There are many theories on behavior. Today we'll be examining one, operant conditioning. There are varying definitions of learning. One refers to a relatively durable change in behavior or knowledge that is due to experience. Most learning is associative, that is, the realization that certain events occur together. There are three main approaches to learning: classical conditioning, cognitive learning, and operant conditioning. Approaches or theories to learning, used interchangeably, describes what students do when they go about learning and why they do it. The basic distinction is between a deep approach to learning, where students are aiming towards understanding, and a surface approach, aimed at reproducing information in an exam rather than truly understanding. Hopefully you have a better understanding of learning. Kirk, can you explain operant conditioning?
Yes, operant conditioning is based on several assumptions. The first assumption that operant conditioning is based on is that psychology should be seen as a science. Skinner noted that psychologists should operate similar to scientists, observing learning in an environment where it can actually be monitored and measured. Secondly, they explained that human behavior is going to actually create a set of laws. Skinner again was particularly interested in setting up a law as it relates to learning. The third assumption is that any change in behavior is the only basis for concluding that learning has occurred. The fourth assumption is that all behavior is learned from the environment, and implicit in that is that again human beings have no free will. Further, operant conditioning, or instrumental conditioning as it's called, makes a distinction between two types of behavior. Respondent behavior, which is a behavior which again relates to our reflexes. A good example of this is when we actually feel heat, when we put our hand close to a stove, we will withdraw it. Operant behavior, however, has two dimensions. It is both spontaneous and purposeful. We focus on the purposeful aspect of behavior and its application to learning. The next thing that we will actually look at are the consequences for these actions, where we now look at specifically what is operant conditioning. Operant conditioning is a method of learning that occurs through rewards and punishment. Through operant conditioning, an association is usually made between the behavior and a consequence for that behavior. We will now move on to focus on the principles of operant conditioning. Shaping is the operant conditioning procedure in which reinforcers guide behavior toward the desired target behavior through successive approximations. A practical example will further demonstrate this. The teacher would like the student to get 100% in the class. In this case, the desired target represents the 100%. The teacher must reward attempts towards the target, as an example, 80%, until the student reaches the final desired target.
In the application of operant conditioning, there are some key concepts or principles. But first, let us redefine some words. Positive and negative usually have a value or judgment system of being either good or bad. In operant conditioning, it is quite different. Positive is when something is given. Negative is when something is being taken away. Reinforcement is something desirable. Punishment is eliciting a feeling of aversion or something undesirable. With those definitions being given, in applying the concepts of operant conditioning in the classroom, a teacher can use negative punishment, positive reinforcement, positive punishment, and negative reinforcement. Brian and Sarah were using their phones, but when the teacher asked of them to be put away, Sarah obeyed, Brian didn't. Sarah was rewarded. This concept is positive reinforcement. On the other hand, Brian was given a demerit. This is positive punishment.
Now that we have looked at the theory in some amount of detail, we are now going to focus on some of the strengths and weaknesses of the theory. Anne-Marie will actually be discussing those strengths and weaknesses.
The theories are widely used in classroom settings. They are very helpful to control students' behavior. People are more aware of how to control behavior, which has become important in parenting techniques. Disadvantages. The theory treats people as if they are animals. Little consideration is given for individuals' cognitive development. It does not always work in practice as it's presented in theory. Skinner did not allow for any other perspective on the theory.
I know what you're doing.
Really?
Yes. You're using chocolates as positive reinforcement for what you consider correct behavior.
Very good. Chocolate?
No,
So overall, guys, what do we think of operant conditioning?
Operant conditioning is primarily concerned with observed behavior as opposed to internal events like thinking and emotions. The major influence on human behavior is learning from the environment.
Oh, that's really interesting, Claudia. Thank you.
Operant condition can be used to explain a variety of behavior. For example, the learning process, addiction, and language acquisition.
I hope there's some application in the Jamaican classroom.
Oh yes! It is also applicable in the classrooms, in the psychiatric institutions and prisons, as this is very practical.
So overall, we would say that operant conditioning has made a valuable contribution to our understanding of learning. It has incorporated a scientific approach to learning. However, operant conditioning, as we now recognize, has made an incomplete approach to learning. It does not account for the inherited and cognitive perspectives of the learner.
Yes.